Well, it's a snowy, cold, yet the sunshine is out, Sunday morning. I'm coming off the effects of NyQuil, and I wake up to Ghost Critic tagging me in a Guilty Pleasures video. Apparently it was started by Minutia Minute. There's two questions: what's my guilty pleasure book, and what book or books should I be reading? And I like Ghost Critics. You need to go watch it, man. He talks about sex. That's right. Has his guilty pleasure book, and he referred to me as the Mighty Howlermouse, which kind of cracked me up. And I was like, you know, kind of like the ring of that, the Mighty Howlermouse. It's funny. All right, so my guilty pleasure book is The Boys by Garth Ennis. So get ready, because if you haven't read the book, it's quite shocking. It's explicit, and it's got, I want to set the tone for what kind of book this is, okay? Because there's a lot of extreme and violent things that happen. There's a lot of sophomoric humor. There's a lot of sexuality done in a ridiculous way, yet the violence in it is done in a realistic way to balance it. And it's no secret that Garth Ennis hates superheroes, and this is kind of his take on their hedonistic, psychopathic, I want to say narcissistic ways of doing things, because the boys are basically a CIA operative group whose whole job is to monitor and step in when they need to. Black ops group to watch over the superhero community, because their image is just like what we see in the comic books, yet what they do is just out there. It's just so out there. So this isn't so much a review of The Boys, but I'm going to give you a swift overtone. Now, to give you the tone of The Boys, the way it balances out and stuff, you know, back in the 80s, there was these things called Ugly Balls that came out. And this is the advertisement. Now, I remember there was Mad Balls, too, or something like that, right? And, you know, the misadventures of Captain Clueless in pursuit of scary, bouncing, ugly balls. Meanwhile, back in another realm, ugly balls await your orders. Alright, so, you know, that's kind of unintentionally silly. They knew what they were doing. But a couple years ago, when I was at Toys R Us, and I had my son there who had just turned maybe 12 or something, we were in an aisle at Toys R Us, and he went on down looking at toys, and I looked up, and they had Mad Balls. And I sat there and I went, oh wow, Mad Balls are back. And from the distance I hear, my son is trying to keep it in, and he's at that age. And that is The Boys. Alright, so where are we at here? I'm shooting from the hip here, man. Like I said, I just woke up. Here's number one. When The Boys started out, they were being printed by DC Comics under the imprint of Wildstorm they brought out, okay? And Wee Huey gets recruited because, I think he's an Irishman. But anyway, Wee Huey gets recruited by the Butcher to get the boys going again. You got Frenchie, Mother's Milk, and the female all in there and stuff. And basically what happens is that this is right off the bat where we get, you know, Wee Huey shows up, and he's Simon Pegg. He's drawn like Simon Pegg. That's part of the joke. And Simon Pegg knows it. He did an intro for one of the trades and stuff, kind of talking about it. So when you read this book, first thing you're doing is you're picturing Simon Pegg with all these guys. And the Butcher is a bastard. You know, the Mother's Milk is a nice guy, yet he gets his powers from drinking, you know, breast milk and stuff. The female is just a psychopath who never talks, and for fun she likes ripping people's faces off and stuff. Ultra violent. Then you just got Frenchie, who's the only one who can talk to the female. And that's still oversimplifying it. There's a CIA operative. I think her name's Jessica. I can't be real sure, but she acts like she hates the Butcher, and the Butcher will come in with his dog, and he's got a bulldog. He's English, and the bulldog is trained to fuck things. See, I told you right off the bat. And he will sit there in I think Jessica's her name, the CIA operative. They'll sit there in her office, and she'll be behind her desk, and she's like, "Fuck you, Butcher. Fuck you. Who the hell do you think you are?" And the Butcher will give it right back to her, and he always ends up having anal sex with her before he leaves the office. Yeah, okay. But anyway, Wee Huey is sitting there, and he's and it starts out, you know, he's walking around, he's with the love of his life, he's getting ready to propose, and meanwhile, you know, over here somewhere, A-Train, who's part of the Seven. The Seven is more or less the ultimate super group. You know, it's kind of like the Avengers and the Justice League have merged and stuff, you know. They sit there and he's having a fight with some villain, but they're reckless. Okay, that's the whole thing with these guys. They're real reckless with their powers. They live in a whole different state of mind and stuff. And he gets deflected with his super speed, and he's going faster than the speed of sound. While Huey is holding his girlfriend by the hands, I think he's getting ready to propose to her or something. A-Train comes in, smashes her into a wall, and Huey's left there holding her detached arms, you know, just in shock. So he gets recruited and goes to America, lives in a ghetto, and he lives in a place where every night he'll be laying in bed, wondering what the hell he's done, can he handle this kind of world, and there'll be like, all of a sudden this liquid will just flow from from the hallway underneath this door into his room, and it's mixed blood and semen. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Alright, so anyway, DC and Wildstorm published the first 6 issues, and Garth Ennis and Derek Robinson are just hitting their stride and all this stuff, and this is where the book kind of got my attention, because this book, Garth Ennis said it out-preaches Preacher. You know, it out-preachers the Preacher book or something like that, and yes it does. Okay, everybody's up on the Preacher because it's about to be a TV show. This stuff is this stuff is just more out there than the Preacher. So anyway, DC publishes, you know, the first 6 issues, and then all of a sudden they're announcing they can't do it. The tone, the anti-superhero tone, they have some reason for doing it, and they're not going to publish it. But they're really good to Garth Ennis. You know, they revert all the rights back to him, and I think Derek Robertson was an exclusive artist for DC, but they were like, we're going to make an exception for you so you can keep this. They fished around, and Dynamite Comics comes out, and then you find out why they really dropped the book. Because while the boys are fighting this kind of version of, I think they're called Teenage Kicks or something, they're really the Teen Titans. That's the whole thing about the book. I'm not going to get all the hero names and group names down because they're thinly veiled versions of mainstream comics and stuff. This is his take on them. Alright? And, you know, and he takes down, oh man, something Cock. See if I got his name up here. Hold on. He's in the middle of it. Huey accidentally kills one of the heroes. I don't know. His name's like the Gangly Cock or something like that. I don't know. I can't remember. But anyway, and as he's accidentally killed him, all of a sudden there's movement. He's laying face down. You know, this you know, dead superhero that Huey has accidentally killed is laying there on the ground. And all of a sudden, you know, he's belly down on the ground, and all of a sudden in his pants you start seeing movement. And out from his ass, turns out he walks around with a hamster taped up his ass. And the thing gets out and lives, and Huey ends up like, oh my God, how could you do this? And he takes it home and he takes care of it and stuff, man, because he just can't believe that this thing has lived, you know, most of its life up a superhero's ass. Okay? And then you start finding out that Compound V is what gives these superheroes powers. Anybody can get powers by taking Compound V. It's this powder that actually the Nazis came up with. And it's a blue powder, and that's how you know you take it, you get powers, and some people have to keep taking it and stuff. And you start finding out that this thing also has side effects, man. Like, you know, the superheroes with their celebrity status will rent brothels, the whole building, and get a bunch of hookers, and the hookers have to take Compound V to keep up with the sex with the superheroes. And they're switching, they're playing games with it, and there's heroes running around, you know, looking like Winnie the Pooh with just the shirts on and their pants off, and they're switching hookers and stuff. You're just reading this, you're just like, what the hell, man? So, you know, it goes on. So DC, you know, gave it up and was real nice about it. And, you know, you get, you know, they tied into 9/11 and stuff, man. But you get, like, imagery like this with the boys and the heroes. And then you get Starlight. To join the Seven, she ends up dating Huey. They meet in a park. Huey doesn't know about why he's with the boys. Starlight is a little bit upset because she's like real virginal, real Christian and stuff. She comes from Prairie Land and stuff. She gets kind of recruited, and she shows up, and she's like, oh, I'm so excited, it's an honor to be here. And she's meeting all these heroes that are like Superman, Wonder Woman, and you know, Aquaman and Martian Manhunter, but they all have different names, like Highlander, and stuff like that. Anyway, A-Train is the Flash and all this stuff. She can't believe she's there, you know. And there's always this representative from Vought America. Apparently the corporations and the government have got their hands into what the Seven does, and everything, Image and everything like that. And these guys completely botched up 9/11. One of the towers survived, but a bridge in New York went down and stuff, right? And you get to see that story. But she's sitting there, and next thing she knows, she's like surrounded by all the guys of the Seven, and to stay in the group and to be there, she has to do a circle jerk on all of them. She's in the center, and they record it. and they ended up sending it to Huey after they find out she's dating one of the boys and all this stuff or something, right? So, you know, she goes to the big city and ends up getting screwed. And, you know, that's just the whole thing. You can go on and on and on with all the stuff that they did, you know. And then this is kind of some of the stuff that you see here, man, like tongue-in-cheek stuff, like that version of Wonder Woman with like this evil Superman type. I can't remember what he is or something like that. You know, apparently they're supposed to be having a baby, but something's wrong. One of these things is not like the other. You know, she's an alcoholic too, stuff like that. Yeah, there's Starlight. That's Starlight. They ended up making her change her costume and stuff to show her boobs off and everything like that. Ultra-violent stuff. You get the Frenchman and the female, and you see what they're made out of and stuff. So as you go through there, you start finding out these little stories. Like they take Bruce Wayne and Tony Stark and they put them together into one character. And he has a bat cave and he has a sidekick, but he ends up getting this neurological need. Like he's flying with the superheroes, and there's a superhero down here that's kind of like the Vision, and he's just looking at him, and he sees his butt, and he gets this neurological need to stick his dick in every hole that's around. I mean, he's fucking cave walls and the Vision and all the stuff that kicked him out of the group, and he's trying to get rid of his sidekick. He's like, you need to go now, and all this stuff. And he's sitting there, he's just like, he puts him on a quest to become a bigger superhero, and his little sidekick is so excited, and he's like biting his lip like, you need to go, you know, because you were like, oh no, he's going to fuck his sidekick and stuff. And then you start finding out, like, he lost his, you know, you kind of find out why Dick Grayson and Bruce Wayne really, you know, according to this, really broke up, why he went on to become Nightwing and stuff. And you end up finding out he's like a total asshole in this stuff. It's because, like, they got with the Catwoman, whoever this character was, and they're all hanging out, and she starts putting the moves on, you know, our Batman character, and goes ahead and puts some moves on our Robin character, and then they end up having a threesome, and they looked at each other eye to eye with, you know, with our little sidekick going, golly, this is great, you know, and they broke up. And he ends up saving the world because there's a meteor about to come down, and his neurological need to stick his dick in everything, apparently, you know, he's going to stick his dick in the exact one place that makes this meteor blow up. So, you know, that's how he saves the world. Then you have the G-Men, which is the X-Men, and Huey comes in there, and he goes undercover to meet him, and it seems like a nice bunch of guys. It's a bunch of people, you know, they're thinly veiled mutants, and this really nice guy's bringing them in and telling these parents, I'll give them free education, they'll be around their peers and stuff, and it turns out it's nothing but a bunch of kids being molested, and they begin to think that they're just objects, so they'll sit around and watch a movie, and they'll just whack off each other and stuff like it's no big deal, you know. And they end up coming after Huey and all this stuff, and the Bought America and part of the government come in and just go ahead and wipe them out, you know. We'll clean up our own messes. We don't need you. And, oh my God, there's just so much stuff like that. They tackle the idea of heroes who are dead coming back, and they're actually really messed up when they come back to life, right? And it's all hidden for the media and stuff. They're pretty much vegetables in their heads. And when the Larney Cock, that's his name. When the Larney Cock comes back to life, all he wants is his hamster back. And he walks around and he just shits on himself. You know, he's a big mess and everything like that. You know, and Huey's just like, you're not going to get the hamster back. And they're fighting over this hamster and stuff. I mean, it's just, oh my God, it's amazing stuff. And then you have this guy. He's the Legend. Okay? And it turns out that he's like the informant for the CIA and stuff. He wrote comic books. You know, this could be like Jack Kirby meets Stan Lee meets Julius Schwartz. He's just like an amalgam. He's just this nasty little man where it lives in the back of a comic book shop surrounded by stacks and stacks of comics. And he gets all his information out of the comics and stuff, because comics are actually just, you know, propaganda media to make these heroes look like what they're supposed to be. And, you know, I can go on and on. They go after everybody, man. You know, you got your Fantastic Four type heroes with Herogasm. And in the middle of this, they come out with Herogasm. Okay? Take all that in, right? It's a miniseries, man. All this drug and do stuff. And you find out that all the heroes in the comic books will all get together, and they'll go off into space or they'll disappear, and they're doing some secret war, some Crisis on Infinite Earth, some Infinity Gauntlet, some Millennium, you know, some great big huge disaster. It takes all the heroes, and they seem to happen once a year. Oh my God, you know. It turns out what they're really doing is they're all hiding out on this resort in like the Keys of Florida or somewhere like that. I don't know where it is, and they're all having like a week-long orgy fuck fest. You know, and the boys go down there to infiltrate and get information and stuff, and you see all these heroes just screwing each other. The Homelander, who is Superman, gives hell to the guy who's kind of like the Captain America, and you kind of find out that he can like he kills Captain America's self-esteem so bad he pisses his pants, and you come to find out that you know, Captain America wanted to be part of the Justice League so bad that, you know, Homelander / Superman had his way with him and stuff. Just stuff like that. It's drugs and hookers being screwed to death and hamsters up your butt and all this stuff. But it's so cartoony and stuff. It's well balanced. It sounds awful, you know. So that's my guilty pleasure. You know, I was asked, and I just went for it. All right, books I should be reading. There's really a ton of them, man. I really should be reading Saga. I should be reading Revival. Revival, Saga, that's the big two. I think I've been missing out on the J.H. Williams years of Batwoman. I got some books last night, started flipping through them. But I think that's the big ones, you know, Revival and Saga. You know, they just don't come around here and stuff. So that's the two I think right now. So anyway, there you go. There's my guilty pleasure video. All right, later. And the two people that I'm wanting to tag, I want to go ahead and I don't know if he's ever been tagged for a video. Maybe he'll be able to do something if he's made it all the way through this. It's going to be Thuggy1 and 4 string solid bins. You know, Shannon out there. So that's two people I want to tag.